Sorry, I had something in my throat. Hey, what's happening, everyone? It is I, the man, the myth, the mustache, Tim here, and have I got a brand new video for you. Welcome to part 3 of What If Midoriya Was an All-for-One fan. Please sit back and relax, because you really have no choice at this point, because you're in for a sweet and sour treat. With that little intro out of the way, let's get the torture going, shall we? 3 long, agonizing weeks to go until the entrance exam. Midoriya knew his quirk was up to the test after all the training, plus, thanks to his mother, he could hold back when he needed to. That way, if a student were in danger, he could get those stupid hero points and not risk hurting the student, or worse, ending their hero career before lesson 1. His body was also no longer weak and helpless, but having muscles didn't automatically give him hand-to-hand skills. After all, he couldn't grow dependent on his telekinesis quirk no matter how powerful it was. If he got backed into a situation where he couldn't use his quirk, he'd be dead where he stood, and Midoriya knew this. He reached for a secondary phone that he kept hidden under a false panel in his desk drawer. He got the idea from remembering this on an anime he'd watched once. Something that involved being able to kill people with heart attacks. Midoriya chuckled a little as he went into his contacts, thinking All for One would love a quirk that could do that. He'd also done some work on the phone's exterior, making it indistinguishable from his normal phone. Slowly, the phone began dialing a number.
Yeah, whatever, Kurogiri. Hey, Midoriya, what's up?
Shigaraki responded with a dying tone of irritation. Kurogiri must have been nagging at him about sorting something out that more than likely he suggested, such as the small adjustments to Shigaraki's signature villain outfit. Given it was best not to irritate the gamer villain who could disintegrate you any second when he was in one of those moods, Midoriya decided to keep it friendly. That, and Inko was home, so not like he could openly discuss villain business and be tactical. Yamaki! Hey, how are things going around the university? Oh, yeah, I bet that must have been a boring lesson. Man, I don't envy you, but good news. I've been doing some serious training and studying to get ready for UA. My mom trained me in keeping my quirk under control. Don't want to bring any buildings down, you know? Plus, all this training has gotten me some muscles, so say goodbye to that string bean you met all those weeks ago. Anyway, I called you for 2 reasons. I was wondering if your university would let me train in the gym and use the punching bags you have so I can work on my hand-to-hand combat. Also this weekend, if you'd be interested in hanging out, maybe I can finally introduce you to my other friends who might like you. Midoriya smiled casually on the phone, acting like nothing was up as he chatted away at Shigaraki, waiting for his reply to both questions and listening carefully to Inko's movements about the house, not wanting her to barge in on a call with Shigaraki.
Yamaki? Oh, right. So your mom's home again, huh? Well, things around here have been pretty hectic, if I can level with you, Midoriya. But your suggestions have been very helpful. Even up my combat training. So, thanks for that, by the way. As for being able to use the punching bags, yeah, I don't think Sensei is gonna let both of us start honing our battle skills on them. He barely gives me any time with them as it is. Sure, they barely fight back at full strength, or I get weak ones, but they get dusted anyways. Now, you said hanging out this weekend, huh? Does Sunday work?
At the bar, Shigaraki had taken his phone call to a back room away from prying ears, that and Kurogiri's nagging, to decide on a type of mask to hide his face better than his father's hand. He'd narrow it down to a cyan and gray colored traditional Japanese horned demon mask, or a golden fox mask. When Midoriya had mentioned not just hanging out on the weekend, but introducing him to his 2 friends that he'd mentioned before, Kamakiri and Monoma. They sounded like an interesting pair. The idea honestly made Shigaraki feel a little happier and forgot why he was so annoyed before. Looks like he'd need to go find his gloves that stopped him from disintegrating everything he touched when out in public, and going incognito. Yeah, Sunday sounds great. I'll text the guys later and tell them. They'd love a break from training and studying. I'd bet 100 yen on it. And thanks anyway. I get it, your sensei has the right to reserve the university's gym to just students. See you Sunday, Yamaki. With that, Midoriya hung up the phone, slightly unhappy he couldn't beat the crap out of some Nomu to hone his hand-to-hand combat skills. Unbeknownst to him, Inko had listened into the conversation, not hearing Shigaraki's end, but she heard her son pretty well and sighed. She looked down at her own hands, curling them into fists and sighing again. She wasn't a fighter, but she did know someone who was, so she left the house to go make a call of her own and cash in a favor long overdue. Inko stepped off the bus, and there she stood, the place her baby boy wanted to go to become a hero. She approached the gate and pressed the buzzer for the visitor reception intercom. There was a pause as a camera near the school gate focused on her, and a tired groan could be heard on the other end. With that, she waited a few minutes before the gate opened and a tired-looking man in a scarf with long black hair appeared. Following behind him was a second man with a massive blonde hairstyle that pointed skyward and a speaker apparatus around his neck. Eraserhead and Present Mike. Or, that was their hero names. Inko was one of the few to know them as Shota Aizawa and Hisashi Yamada.
Yo, Ings, what you doing here, baby?
Mike immediately received a chop to the back of the head from Aizawa, followed by a death glare, signaling for him to quit shouting, which got him to zip it, so Inko could answer the two. Ha! I see nothing's changed between you two. Anyway, I'm sure you two are busy with work, so I won't waste your time too long, but I need to cash in a favor. I don't care which one of you decides to repay their debt, but you two have both owed me for a while now. You both know Izuku is applying to UA, I hope. I know Shota knows. Anyway, I overheard him chatting with a friend of his on the phone about using a gym to train his hand-to-hand combat, but apparently it's unavailable. Now before you start, no, I'm not asking if he can use UA's training rooms. I just need one of you to teach him what he needs, or at the very least, convince someone who can spare the time. Inko smiled at the two happily, but she asked for her favor in the tone of a mother ready to move heaven, earth, and hell for her child. As for Aizawa and Mike, they both knew they were screwed. Everyone familiar with Inko Midoriya knew all too well not to make a bet with her or risk owing her something, as she collected debts like the devil, and it looked like the devil had come for Aizawa and Mike. Although Inko was oblivious to it, her son was picking up her habit of making bets with people too. Wish I could help your green-haired child. Green-haired child. But I can't spare the time to train him. I got too much paperwork and sleep to catch up on. That and a kid I saved from a villain. Well, okay, the kid saved me after I saved him, but that's not the point. I'm busy training that kid. He's got some real potential, and you both know I never say that unless it's true. Not that Izuku hasn't got potential, or isn't worth my time, Inko, but I'm booked up until after the exam. Although, I think I know some staff that may be able to help him. I mean, you mentioned he already had a hero suit with support gear, and is filing the paperwork as we speak? Well, Power Loader isn't too busy, so he can help Izuku master his support gear. And as for hand-to-hand or unarmed combat, maybe Vlad can help? There was a tense pause as Inko looked at him with a considering gaze before finally breaking into a smile and nodding. Seems Aizawa had paid his debt to Inko, or set in motion the events to do so. Now he just needed to speak with Power Loader and Vlad, regretfully knowing the latter was going to just love the fact he was asking for Vlad's help in training someone. Before we get back to the video, I'd like to talk about our new channel, Celestia, our channel dedicated to all things Dungeons & Dragons. Currently, we have a series breaking down the different spells in D&D, and soon we'll be starting some new series as well. So if you're a fan of D&D or have an interest in learning about it, check it out! Additionally, if there is something you've always wanted to see get made into a video, head over there and leave a comment mentioning it. The days passed as Midoriya had finished writing up his request form to use his hero suit and gear in the entrance exam. He had his new master to thank for letting him know that UA had a system to allow individuals with hero suits and support gear to request permission to use it in the entrance exam, provided they could write a detailed request form detailing support gear capabilities and details on the hero suit. Little to say, it took him a good 2 days to fill it out and send it to UA. Now, usually it takes about 3 days or more to come back, but instead, Midoriya received a call from his mother while he was in his room doing his Wednesday revisions on the written exam subjects. Midoriya was called down from his room to the living room, only to be greeted by a sight he was initially caught off guard by. Two men. No, two pro heroes, Vlad King and Powerloader. After some much needed explaining, Midoriya had learned they'd come to firstly inform him he had the go-ahead from Nezu to use his hero suit, and if Powerloader was satisfied with how he can use it, his support gear too. This made the young villain's heart sink as he forgot to train with his gear. But then, Vlad chimed in that they'd be training him to improve using both his support quirk and unarmed combat, which made the following days until the weekend a nightmare, but a necessary evil for evil. Sunday came along and there was a knock at the Midoriya household door. Opening it, Inko was greeted by a man who must have been no older than 20. She looked confused at him before finally realizing this must be the Yamaki she'd heard so much about, and Izuku had been playing online with so often. Sure, he looked a little rough around the edges, but Inko trusted her son. She'd heard the two talk online and over the phone enough to know he was trustworthy. After all, she learned you can never judge someone based on looks alone, something she was very well acquainted with. Midoriya came downstairs just putting on a jacket with a cake symbol on its back with an X through it. She didn't get the reference, but this Yamaki boy seemed to find it funny as they left.
So, you two are Midoriya's friends, huh? You told me a bunch about you. Both got some cool quirks. I bet you kick some serious ass if you ever wanted to. Anyway, I'm Yamaki. Sorry if my looks are a bit off-putting. My quirk's to blame. That and combined with stressful gaming.
Monoma and Kamakiri gave him a shrug, not seeming to care. Looks like Midoriya had been preparing them for this eventual meetup. That, or they're better than most people when it came to his appearance. Shigaraki thought this to himself as Midoriya came back from the counter with a tray of burgers and fries for everyone. So, Midoriya tells us you're kinda like him in terms of not being much of a hero fan, except for the dying underground heroes who stay away from being turned into a walking media circus whenever they get the spotlight, as they should. Monoma spoke up first. This received a nod from Shigaraki as he was eating his juicy burger, happy to be enjoying a meal and chat with like-minded people for the first time in forever. At least, in public, anyway. Kamakiri gave a grunt at the mention of pros, who want nothing more than the attention of the media to gain popularity and more money from companies using their image for merchandise. Shigaraki looked at Midoriya and was met with a knowing grin. The sly kid had been grooming these two to hate the media hogs, but didn't push them all the way to all heroes, in order to not reveal his villain side. How long had he been doing this? Surely longer than he's been a member of the League of Villains. Then he saw Midoriya give him a nod with that sinister smirk, that same one he wore after tearing a Nomu into tiny chunks. This must have been why he wanted him to meet his friends, because after their food, Midoriya stood up and asked the group to follow him. Then they were at an all-too-familiar alley, one that was once stained with sludge and blood, and where Midoriya took his first steps to meet All for One. Alright, I know you both can see through my act, so quit pretending. You've both known me long enough and been my best friends since day one of middle school. Not to mention you're both smart enough. I'll come clean right here and now to all three of you. I'm a villain, and I plan to use UA to make me even stronger before I step from the shadows and reveal myself. Now, you two hate those attention hog heroes, but sadly, I gotta wake you up more. The underground heroes are no better, just in a different way. Ever wonder why they avoid the media, and sometimes villains or vigilantes just get reported deceased, but never have a name or reason for the death? No? Well, let me shed a little light. Over 80% are killed by underground heroes, or covered up by the Commission, so it may be even more than that. Can you honestly look me in the eyes and say you're okay with that? No hero actually cares about the villain or vigilante. All they see is a paycheck that they have to kill or beat up for the cameras, to get paid. So this is a one-time offer. Join me. Get stronger at UA together, then we can reveal our true colors to Japan. Midoriya turned his back to them, waiting for their response. Would they attack, or would their admiration for heroes crumble? Either way, he had nothing to fear. Then he heard the sound of wavering beliefs as their world came crashing down. Kamakiri stepped forward, turning Midoriya to face them. Prove it. He demanded, staring at Midoriya. His body shaking as he looked at him, Monoma stood in broken silence. There was a beep of a text being sent from behind the three childhood friends as Shigaraki held his phone in a gloved hand, but the other was missing its glove. Then a purple mist warp gate opened before the group. You seek the truth and proof. Follow me to the other side if you three are brave enough. The three silently followed in Midoriya's paces into a bar where he sat cross-legged like a child in front of a blank TV that read, audio only. And a man seemingly made of mist stood behind the bar, polishing a glass with 3 glasses of water and 1 shot glass of whiskey in front of him. Shigaraki instantly sat down and took his gloves off and began drinking the whiskey, keeping a single finger off the glass. This is them, Master. The ones I asked Kurogiri to tell you about on my behalf while I trained. I've been overseeing their training for the entrance exams. They're ready to join me, provided they're willing, but Kamakiri wishes proof of what I've told him of all heroes being nothing but children playing with their powers and destroying public property and getting praised for it or killing in secret for the commission. May I request you show them? A slight chuckle from the screen could be heard as it switched to images of files and recordings that show the damage and death toll the heroes have been responsible for over the years. Each image, each video mortified and angered the boys. They even watched in disbelief as All Might of all heroes went for the kill instead of the capture. Finally, Monoma snapped. Everything we knew about our society was just a big lie to do what? Keep us docile like cattle? Just so we can go and take their place as murderers and camera-seeking attention hogs? But now what? You want us to just join you and rebuild? Wipe the slate clean? Midoriya nodded as he slowly approached him, fist bumping his shoulder with a small smile, slightly betraying the fact he didn't like his best friend reduced to this. Monoma was still in deep shock. It was no secret between the three that Monoma didn't honestly aspire to be a hero, but instead a vigilante. Now it was revealed that vigilantes get treated no better than villains. Perhaps worse, because they just help people and ask for no reward. Guess the heroes can't risk some upstart vigilante making them look bad because they need their 15 minutes of fame. I asked for proof and got it. I'm in, Kamakiri said, glaring at the screen as the images and videos kept on going. Monoma soon looked up from the floor and gave a nod. It had been done, or so things would seem. Midoriya looked toward the screen as it returned to the audio-only channel.
You have nothing to fear, Tactic Kill. They speak the truth. Young ones, I welcome you to the League of Villains. I am all for one. Behind the bar is the ever-loyal Kurogiri, and sat finishing his drink is Tomura Shigaraki. His civilian alias is Yamaki, as you already know. In due time, Tactic Kill will present you with identical copies of your phones that cannot be traced, and will contain the contact details of Tomura, Tactic Kill, and Kurogiri, along with you both. These contacts will be hidden behind an innocent-looking app. As for what you will do, you will serve under Tactic Kill in UA and receive orders from him. But don't let that stop you from trying to impress us. Ambition is always rewarded here.
With his speech given, the three teenagers gave a nod and were warped back to the alley. Things were tense, to put it mildly, and yet they parted ways without hostility, just silence. In the days that passed, Midoriya and Shigaraki would hang out on the weekends when they could. Sometimes Monoma would show up, but Kamakiri always joined their days out and away from training and study. Midoriya had let the two in on the exam, the robots and weak points, along with notes he'd already written on the bots, even telling them of the secret hero point scoring system. Now, the day had arrived. Midoriya left early as suggested by Powerloader to give him time to change in a UA changing room and get to the written exam on time. He approached UA, tailed by Monoma and Kamakiri, all ignoring a barking mutt called Bakugo. Midoriya got changed and took his seat. This was it. He would turn hero against hero with his ever-growing web of manipulation. All in the name of his master. All for one. Ha-ha! Thank you all for indulging yourselves in the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Now there's a little bit of housekeeping I want to go over with. First, if you're in the mood for some great storytelling, We the Celestials has got you covered. Our We the Celestials, My Hero Academia, and Naruto What If channels retell the story of the namesake anime with a twist. Check out more of the content below if you're interested. Secondly, on behalf of We the Celestials, I want to thank everyone who was involved in the production of today's awesome content. Their details are in the description below. You gotta give the writer and the editor some love because they do an amazing job on this thing, not gonna lie. Or am I? No, I'm kidding. They do a great job. Please give them some love. But that's our video for the day, so thank you all for sticking around and have an amazing day. And as always, be kind to yourselves, be kind to others, and stay awesome. This has been Tim. Mustache out.